So I never liked the original AirPods. They looked stupid, they never fit my ears, and let's be honest, they sounded terrible, but that didn't stop them from being one of the most popular audio products of the last couple of years. Now, Apple has released the AirPods Pro, and I have to say, I'm a believer. So we should start with the new design. Apple has finally ditched the one-size-fits-all style of the EarPods and created a brand new, revolutionary, magical new way to get these to fit with everyone. Silicone ear tips. Okay, jokes aside, these are actually pretty cool, and one of those clever little tweaks that a company does every once in a while that makes me go, why did no one do this before? The AirPods Pro come with 3 different sizes of ear tips, and they snap in and out of the earbud really easily, so no more wrestling with the nozzle to get a new ear tip to fit. Apple also included a new fit test that will let you know if you're using the right sized ear tips or if you should swap them out for a different pair. It's good to see Apple taking fit so seriously. I'm not going to say that we had a hand in it here at SoundGuys, but that's what I like to tell myself before I go to sleep at night, because we've been harping on this fit forever. Of course, the downside of the ear tips is that if you lose them, you'll have to buy them directly from Apple. But thankfully, they're only like $4 or something, so surprisingly, it won't cost you too much. It's because of these tips that should enable more people to use them without a problem. As someone that literally couldn't even tie my own shoe without the original AirPods falling out of my ears, I haven't had a single problem like that with the AirPods Pro. I took 2 different flights with them and a few trips to the gym and had no issues with them falling out at all. Speaking of, you can now take these to the gym thanks to the new IPX4 sweatproof certification. So just like the Powerbeats Pro, you can take these for a run and not worry about damaging them. Then we get to the earbuds themselves, which are completely redesigned. I'm still of the opinion that they look utterly ridiculous, but I'm able to forgive Apple here because the design is actually functional. The earbud is slightly angled and curved, so it now sits in my ears better. And the stupid stem thing is way shorter now and also has a really handy squeeze input on the flat section of the stem. Now I should preface this by saying that I love squeezing things as an input method. I think it's quirky and fun. And I use it all the time on my Pixel 3 to activate the Google Assistant. But I'm convinced that its real purpose was for playback controls because these work perfectly and seamless every time. It's way less error prone than touch-sensitive swipes and taps, and it also doesn't have the suction problem that so many other true wireless earbuds have when you're pushing the earbuds into your ears and the force causes them to go in even further, and it's just an uncomfortable experience. These are just more comfortable and reliable, and I'm here for it. That said, you can't control volume with these, which is a bummer, but you can still pause music and skip between tracks by squeezing. Each earbud has a mesh-covered microphone along the outside with other sensors and another microphone on the inside that Apple uses for things like auto pause when you remove one from your ears. Now keep in mind, that's a feature that you'll only get with iOS devices. So the charging case itself really isn't a big deal here. It's pretty much the same exact thing, just slightly bigger. And now it also opens along the wide horizontal side instead, but it's just as portable and easy to carry as ever, so there's no real concerns here. The AirPods also both perfectly snap back into place magnetically, just like the originals, so no real changes in that aspect. So if you've ever used a pair of headphones that have Apple's H1 chip, like the original AirPods or any of the newer Beats products, then there's really nothing new here. It's the same process. So as soon as you open the case near an iOS device, a card will pop up that will allow you to click to connect automatically. Once you do so, it will connect to all other devices on your iCloud. I was able to listen to a podcast on my phone and then switch over to my iPad for a quick meeting and then switch back to my phone after all that with no issues. Again, nothing new here if you've used any other H1 enabled devices, but still just as seamless as always, assuming you're in the Apple ecosystem. Android and Windows users won't have as seamless a transition between devices, and the initial pairing process does require you to enter Bluetooth settings. But I'm still surprised at how well these worked, even with Android devices. Of course, you won't get some of the cooler features like auto pause or even the fit test, but you'll still get great connection strength between the 2 earbuds, playback controls, and you'll even get the 2 best features, which are the active noise canceling and the transparency mode. Alright, so speaking of the active noise canceling and the transparency mode, let's get into it, because these are the 2 newest features that the AirPods Pro offer, and they work perfectly. Active noise canceling in particular is surprisingly good for a pair of earbuds, and I think that's in no small part due to, again, these just having a better fit thanks to the ear tips. But they do a solid job at canceling ambient outside noise. I even wore these on a plane, and while they obviously aren't ideal, they get the job done for the most part. What was even better for that particular situation was the transparency mode, which you can activate by long squeezing the stem of the AirPod. This uses the microphones to let you hear what's going on around you, and not only that, it amplifies the sounds. It's like you have the most boring superpower ever, and you only had to pay a few $100s to get it. It is genuinely useful though, and I found myself using it constantly just because of how easy it is to switch to. Of course, these aren't the only true wireless earbuds that have these features. The Sony WF-1000X Mark IIIs also have active noise cancelling and transparency mode as well. The active noise cancelling is actually better on those too, so don't think that you're stuck buying AirPods because there are other options out there. Just not a lot of them, which is why it's so interesting to see Apple actually early to the party here and actually competing with some of these features. Considering how small the AirPods Pro are and the fact that they now have active noise cancelling, I was expecting battery life to be shorter than the original AirPods. But that really isn't the case, and I still managed to get 5 hours and 6 minutes of constant playback with active noise cancelling turned on. While this is far from being the best battery life we've seen with true wireless earbuds, it's still way better than average, which tends to be around 3 to 4 hours of constant playback. These even beat out those Sony earbuds that we mentioned earlier by a solid 15 minutes. Once they do die, you can just toss them back in the case to charge them up again. The case holds another 20-ish hours of battery life, and just 5 minutes in the case will quick charge them to give you about 1 hour of playback. One thing that's worth mentioning here is that the AirPods Pro still charge via Lightning. Apple, you were so freaking close. On the bright side, you can charge these with any Qi wireless charger, so that's a plus. So Apple claims that they gave the AirPods Pro an auto EQ feature, and I hope you can hear the air quotes, that measure up to 200 times a second in order to constantly adjust the active noise cancelling and to test the fit of the earbuds in your ears, just to make sure that your music sounds best. Of course, this is borderline impossible to test since there's only one of me and my ears are going to be the same every time, but we did manage to get a pretty decent frequency response graph in our testing. Because of the ear tips and the relatively good isolation, these sound obviously better than the previous version. The low end of these still isn't going to be on par with the Powerbeats Pro by any means, but they're significantly more powerful than the AirPods 2. The fact that you can actually hear the bass with these highlights that it's fairly tight and controlled with just a slight bit of emphasis to give those tiny drivers inside a little bit of help. The low end in Calladita by Bad Bunny, which I hope I pronounced right, made its presence felt without sounding forced or fake, which is a trap that earbuds of this size tend to fall into in order to make the low end heard. Don't get me wrong, you're still going to be missing out on some of your favorite sub-bass synths, but drum kicks and deep voices come through just fine. Speaking of voices, the AirPods Pro do a good job at reproducing vocals as well. They have a somewhat neutral frequency response all throughout the mids, even if it is a little bit bumpy. This means that no one note in the mid-range will be made to sound louder than any other just because of the headphones. That said, you can see that this is exactly the case in the highs, where notes around 11 kHz and above have some green peaks of extra emphasis. This can be a bit of an issue when listening to songs like Songbird by Corey Chisel, which I feel the strumming and the guitar squeaks approach the point of harshness instead of clarity. Still, it isn't an issue in most songs, and I'll take this over the previous AirPods frequency any day of the week. So one aspect that can't be overlooked when talking about the AirPods Pro is the microphone. How is it? So most human vocals tend to lie between 100 Hz and 3 kHz, somewhere in that range in the mids. And these do a pretty good job of not overemphasizing or de-emphasizing any one part of that range. While they're not perfectly neutral, you shouldn't have any problems when talking on the phone, as you can probably tell by this video where I'm talking to you through the AirPods. So should you buy the AirPods Pro? Well, I think you already know the answer to that question, but I'll make it easy for you. Yes, because the AirPods Pro are actually good now. They sound better, they fit better, they actually have competitive features like active noise cancelling and transparency mode. They're still super portable, and yes, they still look kind of dumb. But if you were the kind of person that was going to buy AirPods anyway, then you're not going to regret buying these because, like I said, they're actually good now. But if you wouldn't be caught dead wearing any kind of AirPods, then lucky for you, there are other options as well, such as the Sony WF-1000X Mark IIIs that I mentioned. Of course, the Sony Buds aren't cheap at around $249, but then again, these new AirPods Pro also cost $249. Just like the Sonys, the AirPods Pro are definitely a splurge, but at least they're finally a splurge worth considering. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a believer now. And that should pretty much do it for our review of the AirPods Pro. Thanks for watching. If you want to know more about these headphones or any of the other products we review, make sure to check out SoundGuys.com. While you're here, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And also, we have a podcast, so you should probably listen to that. Link down in the description. I'm Adam Molina. Happy listening. I'm sorry, what? No, I can't hear you. I have the new AirPods. Peasant.